Set and check variable blocks can seem a little complicated at first, but simply put, a set block remembers a choice and a check block shows the player how remembering that choice plays out later in the story. Let's look at an example. In this story, the prince has an option to talk to either Emma, Josephine, or no one. Now, I want this choice to be remembered because later on in the story, someone's going to ask him about it. So the first thing I'll want to do is add a set variable to each one of these choices. Next, I'll want to create the new variable. Now, I can do this by either hitting add a variable here, or I can go up to the star where all of my story variables live and hit a new variable here. Both work exactly the same. Let's do it from the story for now. From here, you'll be given the option to either pick switch or counter. We'll go over counters later. For now, just pick switch and then continue. In this first block, you'll want to name your variable. Now, you'll only see this, not your players, so name it something that you'll remember. In this variable, I want to remember who did the prince talk to, so I'll name it that. In these blocks, I'll want to make each one of my options. So I'll have Emma, Josephine, and then I can add one and put no one here. If I save those, when I go back into my story, I can see now when I select a value to set, each one of those options will be there. So I can pick Emma, Josephine, and no one. And that's it. We've set our variables. Now let's see how we can check them later. If we jump to this scene, we'll see that the prince's mother is asking who did he speak with at the ball. To be able to see the different variations based on which one your player picked, you'll want to pull over a check variable block and put it below. And just so you know, you cannot put a check variable block inside a choice block. So first we'll select the variable, and then we'll put in the different options. So if they selected Emma, they'll see this scene, and anything that you pull under here is the scene that they'll see. If they selected Josephine, they'll see this scene. And if you need to add one more, you can hit add a condition. And if they selected no one, they'll see this scene. The player will only see the option that they picked. So if they pick no one, they won't see the Emma or Josephine scene. Here we can see each one of the set variable choices being picked, and then later on how the check variable appears seamlessly. You also have the option to select multiple variables. So let's say he had the same response whether he spoke with Emma or Josephine. We could put Emma and Josephine here, and he could tell her maybe he just talked to some girl. It doesn't matter who. Versus if he spoke with no one, he would let his mother know that he spoke with no one that night. Now, it could be that your check variable options have similar outcomes and your story would just continue underneath. Or it could be that they have completely different outcomes, in which case you could add a jump block to one, jump to a new scene, and then have a completely different outcome based on the choices that your player made. Now, earlier I mentioned counters. Counters are a way to add a numerical value to your variable. So the first thing that you'll want to do is add a set variable and create a new one. For this variable, I'm deciding whether the prince wants to marry Emma or doesn't. And based off their interactions throughout the story, they can either gain points or lose points that ultimately determines if they're going to end up together. So I'll pick counter. And then again, I'll name it something easy to remember. Now I'll want to set a modifier. This just lets me know what the baseline is. So I'll start it at 5. It could be any number you want. In this scene, I have the prince interacting with Emma. One interaction goes wonderfully and one goes dreadfully. So I can pull out 2 set variables. I'll find the one that I just made. And when things go good, I'll add one. Again, you could make that number whatever you want. And when things go bad, I'll subtract 1. Now later in the story, when the prince is ready to make his decision, we can bring out a check variable. pick the variable we created. And if it's less than the value of 5, it means that the prince doesn't want to get married. But if it's greater than the value of 5, it means that the prince will get married. And that's how to use set and check variables in StoryLoom. Thanks for watching.